Wars: The Rise of Skywalker is the last movie in the Skywalker saga, which means this ending explained isn't just for one movie, but for the entire 9-film trilogy of trilogies, which began more than 40 years ago. So how did this epic saga finish up? Will allow us to break it all down. It is our destiny. After much gallivanting around the galaxy far, far away, The Rise of Skywalker spends its finale in the mysterious unknown regions, the unexplored area of the Star Wars galaxy beyond the Outer Rim. Yeah, it turns out there's a lot of worlds out there beyond just the area controlled at various times by the Republic, the Empire, and the First Order. The Emperor has been holing up in the unknown regions on the ancient Sith world of Exegol all these years, somehow still alive despite his unfortunate run-in with the Death Star's reactor core at the end of Return of the Jedi. While it looks like he has cloning facilities on Exegol, including a tank full of Snoke clones, it doesn't seem as though Palpatine himself is a clone. There is a throwaway line, however, about magic and dark science, things only mastered by the Sith, so we'll have to chalk his return mostly up to that. We also know from the Star Wars games and books that Palpatine was keen to take advantage of the resources of the unknown regions as part of a contingency plan in case he died, and that First Order shipyards, bases, and weapons factories were built in that area of the galaxy. So it makes sense that he'd also be hiding out there in the intervening decades between films. He's been busy though, overseeing the construction of a brand new fleet of Star Destroyers, which the Emperor has offered to Supreme Leader Kylo Ren. And yeah, these ships each have a planet-killing weapon on board. Who needs a Death Star these days? In return for this massive fleet, all the Emperor wants in return is Ren's Force Power pen pal, Rey, who it turns out is the Emperor's granddaughter. Old Palpatine, barely alive now via Sith magic, wants Rey to kill him, which will transfer his essence into her, as well as the souls of all the other Sith contained inside him, and allow him to rule supreme in a young and powerful new body. How Palpatine even has a granddaughter is not fully explained. His son was Rey's father, seen in flashback here. But the previous movies never gave any indication that the Emperor had any family of any kind. Anyway, all points lead to Exegol in the film as the Resistance faces the new fleet of the First Order, which is now calling itself the Final Order. While Poe leads the battle in the air, Finn and Naomi Ackie's new character Janna head up the ground team, which has to take out the communications array on the lead Star Destroyer. Or something like that. It's a little confusing, really. They wind up switching between several different targets to accomplish this, but the main goal is to prevent the fleet's ships from communicating with one another and prevent them from being able to navigate out of the unknown regions while the Resistance, hopefully, can take them out one by one. Meanwhile, down on Exegol, Rey, who, since learning of her true lineage, has been struggling with the idea that she could turn to the dark side, but she confronts the Emperor anyway. He's not quite more machine now than man, but he's definitely still twisted and evil, and also hanging from some weird kind of device that presumably helps keep him semi-alive. Things get very reminiscent of Return of the Jedi from here on out, with Palpatine trying to get a young Jedi to slay him and turn to the dark side, while a space battle rages above them. A battle he is also manipulating and forcing Rey and Ben to watch. And there's even a turn in both films where a bad guy becomes good. The final confrontation between Rey and the Emperor takes place in front of a vast arena full of nondescript Sith worshippers, taunting her by disabling all the Resistance ships above with Force lightning. Who those Sith worshippers are isn't clear. Maybe they're clones of Palpatine? Or could they be some kind of physical manifestation of the many Sith who came before the Emperor? Maybe they're just there for the free show. And then after all of this, Ben Solo arrives, having forsaken the dark side and his Kylo Ren identity earlier in the film after his mother Leia died, and he had a vision with his father Han Solo, where the dead hero told Ben it wasn't too late to change his ways.
I know what I have to do, but I don't know if I have the strength to do it.
Taking up his grandfather and uncle's lightsaber, while Rey wielded Leia's saber, the two faced off against the Emperor and his guards. But Palpatine breaks out a new force power, literally pulling out the life force from Rey and Ben, which in turn restores him to a semblance of health and less creepy normalcy. By Emperor standards anyway. He also blasts Ben into a bottomless chasm, calling back to when Vader did the same to him. Rey is seemingly down for the count as the Emperor brags about carrying all the Sith who came before him within him. which sounds like another new Force power. Did he always carry them with him? Is Darth Maul in him too? It sounds not fun for the Sith. But Rey calls out to the Jedi who preceded her, and we hear their voices as well. From Obi-Wan to Yoda to Qui-Gon Jinn to Ahsoka Tano and more. Reinvigorated and rising against the Emperor, she deflects his Force lightning with both Skywalker lightsabers, disintegrating him along the way. In doing this, she breaks the cycle of passing down Sith power through murdering the former master, since she killed him with his own power instead of striking him down herself. We see all of the Sith die with him. Unfortunately, the exertion is still too much for her, and she also dies. Meanwhile, Lando and Chewie arrive in the skies above, and they've brought a ton of ships with them to help take out the Star Destroyers after Finn and Janna destroy the communications array. And yeah, never mind that there were only like 20 members of the Resistance left at the end of The Last Jedi, and nobody came to help when they put out a call. Now everyone, not just the military types, show up for the final fight thanks to Lando and Chewie. Back on the planet, an injured Ben climbs out of the bottomless pit and uses yet another new Force power introduced in this film to not just heal Rey, but to bring her back to life. Interestingly, this sounds a lot like the Darth Plagueis the Wise stuff that Anakin Skywalker had been promised by the Emperor when he foresaw Padme's death during childbirth. So then the question must be asked, is Ben doing this as a Jedi or as a Sith? Regardless, he saves her life, they kiss, and then Ben dies, his final act of redemption being sacrificing himself for her. But before the pair can play a game of endless life Force swapping, his body disappears as he becomes one with the Force, while we see the same thing happen to his mother Leia's body back at the Resistance base worlds away. So the Resistance finally win, and the Jedi definitively have destroyed the Sith once and for all. After Rey, Finn, Poe, and the rest celebrate, Rey heads to Tatooine, and the old Lars moisture farm where Luke grew up. There, she wraps Luke and Leia's lightsabers and buries them, even though Leia had no real association with Tatooine whatsoever. Rey also reveals that she has built her own yellow-bladed lightsaber. An old woman passes by and asks her name, and Rey answers. As she sees Luke and Leia's Force ghost smiling at her, she says her name is Rey Skywalker. And so now we have it. This is the rise of Skywalker. The final shot of the film is Rey and BB-8 facing the binary sunset, just like Luke did all those years before. For more on Star Wars: The Rise of Skywalker, check out our review, and here's the entire Skywalker saga crammed into one video. Be sure to follow and subscribe to IGN wherever you like to watch.